Welcome to the full Seasons of Skyrim guide. Today I'm going to be showing you how to get your game from looking like this to looking like this. If you ask me what the greatest mod of all time is, I have to give it to Seasons of Skyrim by Power of 3. What I think we're all trying to do when modding this 15-year-old game is try to make it feel brand new again. And nothing quite has an impact towards making Skyrim feel brand new than Seasons of Skyrim. All the footage captured here today is from my True North Wabbajack mod list. You can go on the you can download Wabbajack and install True North with one click and skip all of this Seasons of Skyrim hassle. However, if you're crazy like me and you want to do it yourself, you're going to need some prerequisites. xLODGen, No Grass and Objects in DynDOLOD, Seasons of Skyrim, Shrubs of Snow, and alternatively, Seasons of Skyrim Unfrozen. I'll link all those downloads in the description. So before we go ahead and start, I want to show you what I'm actually teaching you here today. Notice how the trees in the front do not match the trees in the back. That's the tricky part with Seasons of Skyrim, is you need to generate terrain, grass, and tree or object LOD for all seasons so that when you're looking over a vast landscape, the stuff in the back matches the stuff in the front. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the first step, which is terrain. Okay, step 1. You're going to want to install this mod, LODGen Resources. You can get it on Nexus. I'll leave the download link in the description. Step 2, you're going to want to download and install LODGen. There's lots of guides online on how to do that already, so I'm only going to show you how to actually set it up as an executable within MO2. Click the drop down, hit edit, hit this little plus icon, add from file, and locate wherever you installed LODGen on your computer. Double click the executable, and before you hit OK, we want to select the file location where your terrain will be generated so that it shows up in a convenient location. In my case, I created an empty mod, called it LODGen Winter. We'll be starting with Winter. And now all files that LODGen outputs will go to this location. We don't have to go searching for them. And also, one major tip is do not run this with your full mod list. Notice how I have 1,130. I want you to go through and disable everything in your mod list that has nothing to do with changing the way that the lay of the land looks. So any tree mods, any grass mods, any landscape overhauls, any city overhauls, you're going to want to leave enabled. Just the bare minimum. This is going to save you a lot of time when generating your files. So now that we have everything ready, we're going to go ahead and get started. So we got met with an error. It's trying to start up in Fallout 4 mode, so we need to use a command line to basically get it to start in Skyrim mode. So let's go to where our executable information is for LODGen. In the arguments section, type -SSE. That will start it in Skyrim Special Edition mode. Let's go ahead and hit run, and we'll wait for this to finish loading. So we are generating winter terrain first. You're going to have to do each one. It is a lengthy process. You may not finish today. So first step, let's select the world spaces we want to generate LOD for. You don't want to do all of them because you don't need to. You're just going to be wasting your time. Select Tamriel, Markarth World, Deepwood Redoubt World. You're also going to want to select the Hunter HQ World. You're going to skip Skaldafn, even though it seems like you might want that one. And you're going to do Mini Bear Quest World. Aside from this, I don't think that there is any benefits to selecting the other ones. Let me just go through these quickly to be sure. Yes, that's it. Second, see all this stuff here? This is for LOD 4. There's also LOD 8, 16, and 32. That's essentially a larger ring further and further from the player. So for the closest ring, since this is winter, Seasons of Skyrim doesn't actually put winter on the faraway terrain. We need to fake it. You fake it by putting brightness up extremely high so that the terrain looks almost white. I found a good value for me and my setup is to setting it to about 23. Second, Set vertex color intensity to 0. During the winter, these vertex colors pop up, making your winter terrain essentially have like brown blotchy spots all over the place. So you're going to want to shut these off. You're going to want to go ahead and do the exact same thing for LOD 8, brightness 23, vertex color 0, and LOD 16. LOD 32 I think is the map, so you don't actually need to touch that one. Just leave it exactly as it is. Everything else, don't touch. Seasons, check it, hit winter because we're doing winter first, and we're gonna let this generate, and I'll come back once it's finished. Okay, so that has finished. Just exit out of the window, and I want you to ensure that your files were generated. Here we can see that it put some files in our LODGen winter folder, so that all worked, and that's good. Now we're gonna go ahead and do summer. So disable your winter files because you don't want them interfering with your summer generation. And we're also going to want to go back to Seasons of Skyrim and change it from winter mode to summer mode. So winter mode is type 1, we're gonna change it to type 3 for summer. Now I want you to notice something here. Notice for my LODGen, I don't have all 4 seasons. I only have 2, summer and winter. Seasons of Skyrim requires you to do 5 runs. Default, spring, summer, fall, winter. Now that's so much files. Your DynDOLOD, your end result is going to be like 50, 60 gigabytes of files. So I try to play the systems in a smart way and cut back where I don't need. Instead of having a fall season, I don't generate fall at all, and I make the default season of Skyrim actually my fall season. I also don't generate spring because summer just acts as my spring for me. Now, some of you may not like that. However, I really recommend you to not run fall whatsoever and just use your default season of Skyrim, which is like the Skyrim that you all know, as your fall season. It's going to save you a lot of time, and it's going to save you a lot of file space. If you want to do all 5, go ahead. I skip out on fall and spring. Now, LODGen, I don't even have a default box here because the default isn't going to change. We don't need to generate terrain for it. So in my case, I only need summer, I only need winter. If you want spring, you're going to have to do spring. So anywho, now let's jump into doing summer. So winter's finished. We changed Seasons of Skyrim. Let's load up LODGen again. It's telling me that we need to enable our output folder, and I will teach you the settings to get your summer terrain looking good. What to do is that we want to set the brightness to 0. It will be left on 23, which is going to have your terrain looking bright white as snow. Since this is summertime, we don't want that. 2, I want you to go down here, untick winter, and tick summer. Make sure only summer is enabled. Select our world spaces again, Tamriel, Markarth, DLC Hunter World 1, Deepwood Redoubt World, and Mini Bear Quest World, right here. Set brightness to 0 for LOD level 4, LOD level 8, LOD level 16. You can keep vertex intensity to 0. Hit generate, and we're done. Okay, so now that that's finished, let's just exit out of the LODGen window. It's safe to exit, and check the summer file. All right, we have stuff here. That's good. We're finished with terrain. What we're going to want to do next is we're going to want to download, we're going to want to take care of our grass. So our grass is going to be done by a mod called No Grass and Objects. So like how xLODGen generated our terrain, this mod is going to generate our grass. So install this as a mod if you haven't already. If you've already installed this, just skip this part. Now, the actual tool that generates the grass is not the main file, but slightly down, called Grass Generation Plugin Manual V2. Hit the download button, which I've already done. Find the folder here, extract it, take this file, and you're going to want to put it somewhere. So come back to Mod Organizer 2. Then you're going to want to click your Open MO2 Plugins folder button. Simply drag and drop this into here. I already have it, so I'm not going to. That's it, you're done. Now we want to prime your list to generate the snow grass. So we need to go back to Seasons of Skyrim, and we want to set it to winter mode again. So I've already done that. It's seasonal type 1 winter, and don't forget to hit save, exit out of that. 2, we want to turn our LODGen off for summer, because that's the last one we did, and we want to turn winter on, okay? Now that we've turned our winter on, we want to set up no grass and objects. So no grass and objects is here. There's one important section that we must change. That's very important, okay? So this is the DynDOLOD grass mode. I'm not sure what the default is, but ensure that it's 1. You don't really need to know why, just set it to 1. 2 is overwrite min grass size. This determines how much grass will actually grow. So in my case, I don't have winter grass, so I want it to grow very sparse. 50 is vanilla. You'll probably want to set it to about 45 for summer. In my case, I don't want any grass for the winter, so I set it to 200. Now this will still make grass. This is just going to help make it less sparse. In my opinion, grass does not look good in the winter in Seasons of Skyrim, so I created a mod which is known as Truman's Dummy Winter Grass. Now, what this is essentially 1 pixel of a mesh, 1 pixel of a texture, 1 pixel for the model of the winter grass. If you don't give no grass and objects 1 pixel, then you will have problems later should you not want winter grass in your game. If you like your winter grass then that's totally fine. You can completely ignore everything I'm saying. I will upload this as a mod somewhere and put a link to it in the description, so in case any of you don't want winter grass, you can just download this as a mod and it's all taken care of for you. So now that that's done, we have our winter LODGen enabled, and our Seasons of Skyrim is set to 1. If you want your winter grass, don't set this to 200, set it to like 50, okay? We're now ready to generate our winter grass. So I want you to go to this little puzzle icon, and you're going to want to select this pre-cache grass button. And once we hit this, it's going to let you know this is going to take an hour plus. Yes, it does take an hour plus, and you're going to have to do it for each season. And just hit OK and leave your computer alone. And I will come back once it's finished and we'll pick up from there. Okay, so our grass cache generation has finished. I think it took, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes. Depending on your game, it might take a little bit longer. Just hit OK, and if you're like me, using Mod Organizer 2, those grass files are going to go somewhere. Now these grass files for me appeared in my overwrite folder of MO2, so I'm going to cut them, and I'm going to go to my grass mods that are empty. I'm going to stick it in the right one. So that was winter. I think this was winter as well. I can't remember, so let's go to Seasons of Skyrim and let's see what we just generated. So we just did winter. So let's go ahead and change that to summer for the next run, and we have grass. Now there's a problem. The problem is that these files need to be renamed. Now they need to have the suffix .win underneath all of them. Now that's a hassle, because going through and renaming each file is not it's going to take you a lot of time. So I have built myself like a little C# program here that is essentially going to go through and rename all of these files. So I will leave this a download to this somewhere in the description so that you guys can have this too, because I don't know if there's anywhere that actually does this. It's already set up. Essentially here it handles winter grass, and all I have to do is I gotta go down here and put up a terminal, and I essentially just need to run the program. .NET run. It's set up for winter first, okay? So we're just gonna hit .NET run, and that is done. So we're gonna hit refresh on here. Notice how they have the .win suffix. Now the game knows that these are winter grass. And that is done. So it seems scary, but don't worry, I'll include something for you guys to do that. And with that, winter grass is done. We need to proceed to the second, which is summer grass. One thing I want to say, notice how I have grass for winter, grass for summer, and grass for default. Now, we skip default in the terrain. We cannot do that for the grass. There has to be a backup grass. Otherwise, DynDOLOD will get very angry. So that's one extra step here. If you have spring, you're going to want to go ahead and do spring. I'm moving on to summer now. So disable the winter. It's going to mess it up if you have it. Go to the LODGen, disable your winter LOD, turn it to summer. Just let's make sure one last time we have it set to summer in Seasons of Skyrim ini file. That's all that we need. Let's go ahead and, am I forgetting anything? I hope not. Okay, so, this is Future Truman. I made a mistake earlier. Don't worry, you're all good so far. Before proceeding to do your summer grass, make sure to go back to your No Grass and Objects mod folder. And we want to change this setting we set earlier, that I set earlier, from 200 because I didn't want winter grass, to something more reasonable for summer and spring, like 45. If we had left it at 200, your grass would have been like one strand of grass per meter, which is not good. So again, 45 is a pretty good sweet spot in my opinion. Okay, so that finished up. We're going to exit. And we're essentially just going to repeat the exact same step that we did the last time. We're going to go to our overwrite folder. If you use Vortex, I'm not sure where it would spit out your grass files. You're going to cut them. And you're going to come to your empty folder. And what did we just do? Was it summer? Post that in there. It must be because we have that enabled. Refresh. And we have our summer and winter files. Now, the game won't recognize these as summer files, so we need to rename them. And renaming them by hand is a huge chore, so we're going to open this up with Visual Studio. Now, I'm trying to think about how to get you guys to use this because you guys probably don't have Visual Studio installed on your computer. So maybe like you might be able to run this from your Windows PowerShell, your command line. But here I am changing it. So I'm changing it from winter to summer. This is where the file is. Since the file is called grass summer, we change that there. And we need to change the suffix from win to sum. Okay, hit save. Yeah, I don't want you guys to have to do all this, so I'll probably turn this into like something easier for you guys to use and just hit .NET run. Maybe you can edit a text file instead, and that way you don't have to download a code editor just to be able to rename your grass files. So there we go, that's done. Now we have summer and winter grass. If you're doing spring, you're gonna have to repeat the step for spring. I'm not doing spring. For me, spring and summer is the same season. And I'm not doing fall because default will be fall for me. So I'm going to go ahead, and we don't need to enable this empty folder because it's empty. I'm going to go to LODGen and disable summer because we are doing default now. The default is essentially a way for Seasons of Skyrim to fall back if something goes wrong. If it can't detect your grass files or something along those lines, then it will fall back to default. And I actually use that to my advantage to not have to use summer, to not have to generate fall stuff. So let's change this to 0 disabled. We don't want Seasons of Skyrim on when we're generating our default grass. That's disabled. Make sure that our LODGens are disabled, and that's pretty much it. We're going to go ahead and run for the default grass now. Okay, so we are going to generate our default grass. So let's shut off any LODGen because it's default. We don't want those on. And let's go to no grass in objects, and let's turn the grass size back on. It was 200. Now that will generate almost no grass for your summer or default. I like it at 45. You can go lower for more dense grass, but that's like, I wouldn't go below 40. Going below 40 is a bit much. So I think 45 is a good sweet spot. And now that we have set that, we want to make sure any other grass that we were doing is done. No point to enable it because it's just an empty file right now. We want to go to Seasons of Skyrim, and we want to change it to 0. 0 for disabled. We don't want it on when we are generating our default. So once that's all done, I'm trying to think, is there anything else I'm forgetting? It's probably okay. Okay, let's generate our default grass. And I'll be back when this is done. Okay, so we got back, and our grass cache has finished downloading for the default. Now, for the default, you don't have to rename anything. Also, by the way, I found an easier renaming tool here, so you don't have to do the complicated Visual Studio code editor thing that I was showing. I'll link that in the description. So let's grab our default grass files, which again show up in the overwrite folder if you're using MO2. Let's cut them. And let's go to our grass default section. Again, you don't have to rename these because they're the default. And now I want you to go back to get off of your landscape, mod list setup. So go back to your full mod list. Okay? Now that we're back at our full mod list, I want you to ensure your LODGens are all enabled. Your grass is all enabled. Okay? Now I want you to disable no grass and objects. And we're going to go download a mod called Grass Cache Helper NG. Simply install it as a mod. I'm not going to because I already have it, and just enable it. This is going to be the tool that switches your grass depending on the season. That's it. You're done. It's terrain, grass, done. The last thing you have to do is your trees or your object LOD. So in order to do that, we use a tool called DynDOLOD. Before you run DynDOLOD, if you have any tools at your disposal that you use like PG Patcher output, you'll want to run this first, okay? So if you don't use PG Patcher, don't worry, you can just completely ignore this step. I'm going to run this quickly and I'll get right back to you. Okay, so I did two things off camera. First, I ran synthesis. If you don't know what synthesis is, don't worry about it. And then I ran PG Patcher. Again, if you don't know about it, don't worry about it. Make sure that they're both enabled here. And we're on to the final step. So the final step is to actually run DynDOLOD. Now, I left the DynDOLOD download link in the description. We're going to go, you don't install it as a mod, we install it as an executable. So just like we did with LODGen, we're going to add a file. Go to wherever that you installed DynDOLOD, and first select textgen64.exe. Add another executable, and this time select DynDOLOD64.exe. And hit OK on them both. And before we finish up and run our tree or object LOD, let's make sure that our Seasons of Skyrim is set to run for seasonal. So it's disabled right now. Let's change it to seasonal. Hit save OK. Again, all your grass is enabled. All your LODGen is enabled. Is there anything else that I'm missing? I can't think of anything. I think we should be good to go. I have to disable this because DynDOLOD will complain otherwise. Alright, let's go ahead and run TextGen. Select SSE for Skyrim Special Edition. Okay, so now that we have this GUI open, this is important. So here is just the texture resolution. In my opinion, texture resolution could be lower because things that are so far away you can't see very well anyway. So you can save some disk space by lowering this if you wish. PBR scale has something to do with community shaders and certain special type of textures. If you don't use PBR, you can ignore this. Even if you use PBR, The default settings are fine. The only thing that you want to worry about is grass. Now, if you use EMB complex particle grass, you'll need to tick HD grass. I don't use complex particle grass, so I only have grass available here. Now, this lighting is important because earlier I showed you how the trees in the front didn't look like the trees in the back. Well, this is the brightness of your grass in the back. So you need to tailor this so that the lighting matches the grass in the front. Now, before, there used to be no way, except for trial and error, to run this, wait for it to finish loading, jump in the game, and see how the transition is. Now, luckily, Community Shaders has a feature known as LOD blending, which I'll show you after, which you can easily just change a slider so that they match perfectly. However, in my case, this brightness level depends on your grass mod and your weather mod. So in my case, I use Cathedral landscapes, and I found this to be a good direct lighting and ambient lighting so that they match the in-cell grass, the grass close to me. The HD tree is only if you have a tree mod that has ultra 3D LOD models. I use Fabled Forests. It has those, so I use them. If your tree mod doesn't support that, then you'll only have tree ticked. Don't worry about it. Other than that, everything else is fine. You can go ahead and hit start, and we'll come back when it finishes. Okay, so TextGen finished running. So just hit zip and hit exit. Then you're going to want to find wherever you installed DynDOLOD on your computer. For me, it's this location here, and it should be in TextGen output. So select this folder and install it as a mod. So for me, it says I already have one. That's an old one. I gotta go back and delete it. And let's install this as a mod. You want to place DynDOLOD like at the bottom of your load order. So for here, in my case, it's down here, and nothing is overwriting it except for this one file that's in red, which it must go below. So that's fine. Now let's move on to the final step, which is running DynDOLOD. So once you hit run, we will be met with another window. Select SSE for Skyrim Special Edition. Okay, so it finished loading. Now we're going to go to the advanced section. Now for me, earlier in the TextGen GUI, we discussed that I use Ultra trees. Your tree may or may not have that. So I select that here. One thing I like to do, occlusion data level 3, takes a little bit longer but produces a higher quality occlusion plugin. Now you want to click grass. If you don't click grass, you won't have grass in the distance. Now the density, you do not need to keep it at 100. That's ridiculous because your computer will be rendering so much grass at one time. I recommend turning it way down, like 45 is high enough. Now this snow LOD shader to everything non-swapped in object LOD, I've never actually selected this, but seems like it's probably a good idea to go ahead and hit that. Apply snow LOD shader to everything non-swapped in object LOD. Yeah, I mean, that's just a safe fallback. Now here is very important. I did not do spring and I did not do autumn. I only did default, which acts as my fall, winter, and summer, which acts as my spring and summer. If you did spring, select spring. If you did fall, all of them, select all of them. If you want to use your default season as your fall season, just don't select autumn. This is copy references that have LOD to child world spaces. I think this is like, for example, if you're in Whiterun, it will copy the outside world spaces from Tamriel, so that way you can see, I think it's, so when you're inside of a city and outside of the city, when you're inside of Whiterun, looking outside will be the same as if you're outside. And then it gives you some instructions here. If you have select high with trees and mountains, low without trees, medium with trees. So I suspect that this is if you have tree mod, then do medium. If you have tree and mountain mod, then select high. I just leave it completely off. terrain underside. This is if you use a mod like SkySync or volumetric shadows, ELVAS. If you don't know what I'm referring to, don't worry about it. I personally think it's a bit much to generate underside for the entire game, so I don't use mods like that. For me, I edit the trees, because the faraway trees at this point are essentially using a cardboard cutout, because it's a lot less harder on your computer to render a cardboard cutout than a full tree. However, to me, I'd hate the way it looks, and since I have ultra trees, I select level 0 here. Then I use billboard level 4 and level 4Y billboard level 4 for the farther away trees, which I can't even see anyway. I don't know, that's just the consensus, to use billboard 4 for trees. So I hit OK on that. We have our density selected, we have our seasons selected, and you can go ahead now and click OK. Now, last thing I want to mention, when we did xLODGen, we only selected the world spaces that it made actual sense for. However, the community consensus, what everyone agrees upon, is to just run DynDOLOD for every single world space regardless. So I'm not going to argue with the community. We're going to go ahead and do that today, and we're going to go ahead and hit run. Now, depending on your computer, for me and your mod list size, this is going to take a long time, roughly about an hour 15 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and click OK, and we'll come back once that's finished. As this is the last step, but I have some extra tips for you guys to fix some other issues in your game that Seasons of Skyrim can cause. Okay, so once DynDOLOD finishes, I accidentally clicked already, but it'll hit you with a notice message once it finishes. Hit OK and exit, or zip and exit. Make sure you hit zip and exit. If you didn't, it's not a big deal. You just need to manually zip the folder like I had to. So go to where you downloaded your DynDOLOD install. Go to DynDOLOD output, drag it over to your mod file, and install it like a mod. And you're going to want to put it right below your TextGen output. It's such a big file that the computer is having a hard time processing it. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK, and we're going to wait for this to package itself up. Okay, so it finished. So we're going to go to enable this bad boy. And go to your plugins, make sure that's enabled. You want occlusion below. And that's it, you're done. Now, I'm going to show you a few extra tricks. So, out of the box, Seasons of Skyrim does not play well with Solitude. You get green snow poking through the areas. Now, if you remember when we did xLODGen, we removed the landscape vertex colors. We set the winter terrain brightness up. We also set landscape vertex colors. That gets rid of any problems like this. The problem is that only works for terrain. This is an object. The ground in Solitude is considered an object. So we need to fix that. There's a mod that does this. It's called Simplicity of Seasons. If it is a mod that is intended to be used as a patch for Seasons of Skyrim and Simplicity of Snow. If you use Simplicity of Snow already, go ahead and install this, you're done. Me, I don't use Simplicity of Snow, so we need to extract this Solitude green snow fix from it, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So go ahead and install this mod. Install it. I think I already did, so we're just going to search for it. Simplicity of Seasons, and we're going to install this as a mod. Okay? Now, we're going to delete everything we don't need, just the Solitude green snow fix. So get rid of Markart, get rid of everything that isn't Seasons of Skyrim, Solitude, ESP, or Meshes, or Seasons. So just these three. Now go into Seasons, get rid of everything that is not Solitude. Get rid of those. Go into Meshes, get rid of everything that's not Architecture. Delete it. Go here, delete everything that's not Solitude. Open Solitude, go delete everything that doesn't have the word base in it. So Solitude base market snow and Solitude base snow. Just keep those two. Go to Seasons, open the Solitude, delete everything. Leave the static header, you need that. Get rid of everything. Actually, it's probably easier to search for base. Get rid of everything that doesn't have the word base in it again. So we're going to delete everything upwards from base. So this is Solitude base, Solitude base market. Everything else, delete it. And you're done. This will fix your Solitude snow, and I'm telling you, you have to do it. It is a major difference. There's one more trick I'm going to tell you, but we have to do it in game, so I'll see you there. Okay, so here we are at the last tip. Now this only pertains to community shaders users. So it's kind of hard to tell on my setup because I'm using Tomatoes all-in-one landscapes, which look like insane. Like, oh my god, look at the snow glint, Jesus. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. The last tip I'm showing you here today is, can you tell this button? Can you see the shade of the snow when I click it and when I click it off? So this is disabling vertex colors, which is only possible if we disable them when using xLODGen. There's also a synthesis patcher to disable landscape. There's also a synthesis pass. Hold on. Synthesis disable landscape vertex colors. Remove landscape vertex color. This also removes landscape vertex colors as well. You run it through synthesis, I highly recommend it. But yeah, this is I guess the last tip. Depending on your setup, it may be more noticeable. For example, I used vanilla landscapes before and it was really bad. So just check mark this in community shaders. It should be in the LOD blending menu, and then just hit save, and your vertex colors will be gone and you won't have this color.